Tonight, I want to talk about how we get into that situation. How does this even happen, right? So, and this goes at Maria's point about getting a movement going to get everybody to open up. And here's the trick, right? How does government control us? What do they use? They use two methods primarily. They use the gun, and that's the number one method, right? They have police officers with guns to enforce their rules and their regulations, and even the unconstitutional ones, the executive orders. They have guns behind them. That is what they do. Even with taxes, they file taxes. If you don't pay your taxes, what's the threat? Somebody with a gun is going to come and take you to jail. Or they're going to take a gun, or somebody with a gun is going to come to your house and force you to pay that money. Or somebody with a gun is going to come to your employer and force your employer to take it out of your paycheck. They're not necessarily going to draw it, and they don't have to. They're just going to have it. And so the guns are the number one way that they enforce these laws. That is the most known way. There's a lesser known way that is more insidious than the guns. Licenses. There was a great post that I put up on the Modern Day Revolutionary page. It was by a brilliant young man named Christopher who wrote most of it. I did a little bit of tweaking, but overall it was pretty much his baby. It was about licensing. So if you haven't read that, check it out. It's really good, but I'm going to get into that a little bit here. So first off, what is a license, right? A license is a permit from an authority to own or use something, do a particular thing, or carry on a trade, right? So it's somebody granting you authority to do something. Well, this is where it gets interesting, right? So when you talk about what government can do, we're talking about Section 8 of Article 1, I believe. Let me just double check. Yeah, Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. And I brought this up yesterday. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. It's a key part right there. Now, these are all big words, and I didn't know what half of them meant myself, so I looked them up. So the U.S. Treasury Department's internal trade system defines duty as a tax levied by a government on import and export of goods. Okay, so a duty is taxing imports and exports. Doesn't really apply too much. Imposts are a tax, especially in import duty. So again, it's things coming in. It's imposts are taxes on imports. An excise tax is a tax on the manufacture, sale, or consumption of goods, or upon licenses to pursue certain occupations, or upon corporate privileges. So this is where we get into licenses, right? So the government can do this, but they have to do it fairly across the board. They can't do it to just one population. Now, interesting thing. So a couple U.S. Supreme Court cases here. One of them is Murdoch v. Pennsylvania, and this is what they found. This was a religious argument where they basically were trying to license churches, saying that a church had to have a license, and that they were violating. I believe it was Jehovah's Witnesses. They were violating law because they were charging for materials like a Jehovah's Witness book, that type of thing. So, and what they found in this case was that no state shall convert a liberty into a license and charge a fee therefor. And this was like back in the 1940s. So, but that's what they found. The Supreme Court found no state shall convert a liberty into a license and charge a fee therefor. Right? And then further in Shuttlesworth v. City of Birmingham, Alabama, if the state converts a right, liberty, into a privilege, the citizen can ignore the license and fee and engage in the right, liberty with impunity. Okay? So, how does that all kind of relate? Like, basically they said that they can't put a license on your liberties. Well, Let's talk about Second Amendment. That's the most clear one, right? A gun license is a license on your authority. Particular to Illinois, a FOID card is a license. It violates that Supreme Court decision. It violates the United States Constitution. But what do they get to do? Once they have you licensed with it, now they can say, if you have a medical marijuana license, right, another license, that voids your FOID card. You can't have it. Once they say you have to wear a mask, guess what? That voids your ability to have a gun. You are not allowed per law to wear a mask and have a gun at the same time. Now, that law is unconstitutional as well, but the license is the key here. That's how they track and control, right? This is how they make money off of it and say who can and who can't. So, you're getting licensed for your right. You're having to pay a tax for your right to own a gun. Your United States citizen, unalienable right to own a gun. Okay? So, that's one of the key things here. Now, you want to own a business. Okay. You have to have a business license. Huh. Well, doesn't my business fall under pursuit of happiness? Like, aren't I just allowed to have a business, to sell goods? Like, isn't that like a basic right? To sell something that I made to you? Like, isn't that a basic right? Why do I have to get a license for that? Again, it's a control mechanism. So this is where it gets ridiculous, right? So now you want to sell liquor, right? You want to be able to sell alcohol. You need to get a license. Okay. Now my father-in-law up near he's up in Wadsworth Zion area. He has a restaurant. He wants to open his restaurant and he wants to say screw you. These are unconstitutional laws. You know what they can do? They can say we're going to yank your license. Your business license. We're going to yank your food license. We're going to yank your liquor license. You can't serve those things anymore. It's their control, right? This is how they control. It is through this mechanism. So the entire licensing idea is unconstitutional to begin with, but it is a control mechanism that they have put in place and is one that we have ignored for far too long. To drive a car, really? You have to have a license? I get you need to be safe. I get you should be, but why should I have to do that? Why should I have to pay a tax in order to drive a car that is my God-given right? What? That makes no sense. Not when you think about it. Like, why does the government have interference in whether I can drive a car or not? I thought we were in a free country. What control? How are they going to teach me to be safe? How are they going to help me be safe? Like, really? They're not going to do that. That's not their job. That's not something they're good at, and that's obvious by the amount of car wrecks that we have per year.